What's up, guys? It's your boy Urgoth here, and I'm gonna give y'all a little demonstration on some of the things I do as a hunter, especially as in classic. As a classic hunter, I like to take advantage of Feign Death trinket swapping, and so there's a few things I like to show y'all, trying to get your ideas, and so that if you want to like improve your performance and stuff, and you're not familiar with it, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So there's a few macros that you kind of want to have set up for this. So let me open up some of my macro menus so that y'all can get an idea of how this all works. So there's a few that are very important to have. This is one in particular, the way I use the Charm of the Beast. You don't have, this will work pretty much with any macro you want, but Charm of the Beast is a very good macro if you are a hunter. I'm going to explain kind of like what Charm of the Beast is. So you'll need the first the first macro you'll need really is going to be a proper Feign Death macro. This is to drop you out of combat. That's the key to Feign Death swapping. This is also key to dropping traps while you're in, like, when you're trying to drop a trap. Anytime you're trying to drop a trap, for example, you do have to stop attack. You want your pet to be in passive mode, because otherwise the Feign Death isn't going to work right? And so that's why I have the pet passive cast Feign Death. That will ensure that you drop out of combat. Now, with that being said, there's always issues with some bosses that will resist the Feign Death. If that happens, that's just the luck of the draw. So let's kind of go over some of these other macros that I've set up. So one of the other macros is, so Devilsaur Eye I have set to a shift macro. And so whenever I push shift, it's going to switch, right? And so to show you where that one is, it's this macro here. So it's going to target enemy, noexists. So it's not going to shoot if I'm not, there's no enemy there. Shift is going to cast Devilsaur Eye, and then it's going to cast auto shot, start attack, and it's going to clear the target when they're dead. That's just kind of like a standard attack macro, but I have it bound to my attack. And so, oops, didn't mean to do that. So I can kind of show you my character here. So I have these two trinkets equipped. I have the Renataki Charm of the Beast in one slot, and I have Devilsaur Eye on another. So whenever now you'd be kind of wondering, how do I cast multi-shot? Right now I can't because I'm not in combat. I'd have to actually pop off my multi-shot in order for it to work. But one thing I will show you is if I do pop, just trigger, normally you'll notice it immediately swaps. Like, how is that working? Well, that's through an add-on called Item Rack. So I'm going to open up Item Rack. And so Item Rack has a few things you can do. And one of the things I've set up is a queue. So inside the queue, you'll see I have auto queue this trinket. And I will set Charm of the Beast as first, and then Black Hand's Breath is the second. And so it'll always try to swap these out. So if Renataki Charm of the Beast is ready, it'll switch into it. If it's not, if it's on cooldown, it will switch to Black Hand's Breath. Same for my Devilsaur Eye. If Devilsaur Eye is ready, it will load into that trinket slot. If not, it will be the Royal Seal. And so if I pop my Devilsaur Eye, it will actually stay in my slot until the Devilsaur Fury is over. So that's important to note. It's not going to, for trinkets that have a countdown, right? It's going to have to count down those trinkets. Then once that's up, it'll swap out that to my static trinkets, right? Trinkets that don't have on use. And you'll notice I have a little weak aura over here. This is just a weak aura to tell me like what's the countdowns for these trinkets that are counting down, of course. And so this is how I have my setup as a hunter. A lot of times I like to pair rapid fire, especially if I'm going to start doing Devilsaur Eye. So one of the things I will show you now is I'm going to go to a video clip of me actually using it, for example, in a boss fight, so that you can get an idea how that works. So now this is a fight with Oni, and I picked Oni just because it's a very good fight to kind of show how a hunter can actually really use his abilities very well inside of a raid, okay? And so, I'm just kind of waiting at the moment, just waiting for the tank to get a bit of a threat, just checking, see how things are working. And I'm gonna sit and it's like, oh well, I saw someone get tail whipped there. It's like, okay, well, there's gonna be some whelps. I'm gonna handle these whelps first, just because in Oni you want to handle these whelps because if they start getting into the healers, it's just gonna cause problems, right? And so by that time, everything's good. I do it auto shot, aim shot, multi shot, quickly pop the charm, do another multi shot, aim shot. Because Charm of the Beast will reset those two abilities and your arcane shot, but arcane shot is not as good. Do rapid fire, Devilsaur Eye, and then I keep going back into my rotation. And so I keep keeping my standard hunter rotation up, right? Making sure, do auto shot, aim shot. When aim shot's down, hit that multi shot, making sure we're all keeping that very tight rotation as the hunter. And so now, at the moment, you're like, well, why am I not Feign Death swapping, right? So Feign Death swapping, if I Feign Death right now, well, I would actually be, those trinkets will swap. But in this fight, I don't. I just keep going in. Sometimes you're going to have to make a determination as a hunter, because when you do a Feign Death, you're going to lose a tiny bit of DPS because you're not actually attacking anymore. There is going to be a slight delay there. And so I think in this fight, I don't actually Feign Death until I'm very low on mana, because I use the Feign Death drink, hunter drink thing, meta, if you want to say. So there's that bit. And now we're handling a bunch of whelps there. I'm just doing what you have to do in Oni as range. Just keep attacking the boss, because we're going to pull the boss down out of this phase as quick as possible, of course. To make sure Oni's where she's supposed to be. Breath's coming up. And so this is where I Feign Death. Now, right there, you'll notice I'm doing a few things. Main thing I'm doing right here is I'm drinking. And then item rack, whenever I leave combat, it will trigger that queue and swap out my trinkets for me. And so it's one of the benefits of using item rack. You can do these trinket swapping with a Feign Death macro, but for ease of use, for me, I like the item rack because it's an add-on. It handles it for me, and I don't have to worry about it. And so we go back into the fight, and the trinkets have been swapped. And here I am drinking while everyone else is, attacking, the boss and stuff, while I'm just sitting here on the job. Then we're going. Let's kind of go through the fight a little bit, because I kind of want to show you the next time. And you'll see one thing item rack will do for you is that if you have the toolbars set up in item rack, it will tell you which one's about to be loaded in next. So it'll tell you that. So it knows that Devilsaur Eye needs to be loaded back in, but it's not going to load that in because I'm in the middle of combat at the moment. It won't load that trinket in until I Feign Death again. But of course, we're just, using our static trinkets, Black Hand's Breath and Royal Seal. Just keep going through the fight. And so at this point, somewhere in here, like, you know what? I'm noticing that my trinkets are ready for me. So right when she falls down, let's see, stage 3 gets triggered. And we're going to say, you know what? Let's reset our aggro anyway, because she's landing. We Feign Death. We leave combat. And at this point, even though the breath got off, item rack was able to swap in our on-use trinkets. Now, whenever you do swap in an on-use trinket, there is going to be a 30-second cooldown. If you really want to be really good at it, you can time the cooldowns on your on-use trinkets to Feign Death when there are 30 seconds left on them. So let's go back a little bit, right? So probably in this bit of the fight where Devilsaur Eye is about right here, it's at 29.3 seconds left on Devilsaur Eye. I could have Feign Death swapped at this point, and it will switch in that trinket for me, because that's kind of like the optimal part of when to switch it in, is because then you're not having to essentially double up the wait time to get that unused trinket back in, right? You're using the natural cooldown of the trinket and the trinket equipping cooldown in conjunction. They don't stack. It's going to be the same. And so that's like the optimal time to actually do your Feign Death so that item rack can swap in your trinket. So there is that, but in this particular fight, Feign Death was on cooldown, and so kind of wrap up the fight here a little bit. We're gonna kind of wait a little bit, and we'll just kind of go back into my rotation here. Got a little fear there, but that's fine. Go back into the rotation to do auto shot, aim shot. We're gonna do multi-shot, Charm of the Beast, back into aim shot, and just keep the DPS up. And then I always like to do the Charm of the Beast and then Devilsaur Eye. You can probably do Devilsaur Eye first and then Charm of the Beast. It's kind of up to you. Just kind of feel like how you want to do your DPS. There's like a slight DPS difference between them. I believe Devilsaur Eye is a slightly better to do first and then Charm of the Beast. But if the fight doesn't last very long, sometimes it's better to do Charm of the Beast because then it's like a big damage bump. It kind of naturally falls into a good Feign Death at the end of that because you do a lot of damage, and then you can Feign Death and then go back into the other rotation because you're doing essentially 2 aim shots and 2 multi shots back to back with Charm of the Beast. But that's pretty much sums up the whole Feign Death trinket swapping meta for hunters. Some of the other things that you might just want to be mindful of course, is like playing around with the trinkets you have. For example, if you only have Devilsaur Eye, you can still use item rack, and I'd recommend it because that will just keep it clean, right? And so if I only had Devilsaur Eye, I would only have it equipped for one of my queues. So Devilsaur Eye, and then right after that Royal Seal, because it kind of makes sense to put something that increases your attack power with something that increases your attack power. Whereas the Charm of the Beast, it's a little bit different, right? Blackhand's Breath increases your crit chance, and so it's not like a one-to-one kind of relation, right? And so I like to pair Charm of the Beast with Blackhand's Breath. One thing you will notice is that whenever you do pop Charm of the Beast, it has an internal 10-second cooldown till you can pop another on-use trinket. So that's just something to bear in mind. So if you do pop Charm of the Beast, you're going to have to wait 10 seconds after you pop Charm of the Beast to pop Devilsaur Eye, and vice versa. You cannot pop both of them at the same time. They can't stack. Well, it's only one or the other, unfortunately. But they're good uses to have in your toolkit. I would kind of recommend, it's good to use both of them though, because then you don't have to worry about the Feign Death getting resisted in a fight, and you're not having to worry about the potential just lag of switching, because there is going to be a small amount of time where Feign Death has to go off and then come back. It's like, I believe it's a whole global cooldown that you have to bear in mind. And so when you're talking about doing a max damage, it's beneficial to have them on your 2 trinket slots instead of having them in a queue together, right? So those are just my thoughts on it. And if you have any questions or anything about this, just feel free to leave a comment on this video. And as always, stay hunting.